The Iran-Russia nuclear deal is more than a commercial contract. It is a statement of defiance, an alliance of sanctioned states openly challenging the Western-led global order. For Iran, it promises electricity security and prestige. For Russia, it offers revenue and influence. But for the world, it raises difficult questions. Can non-proliferation regimes survive if major powers ignore them? Will regional rivals like Saudi Arabia and Turkey now accelerate their own nuclear programs? And how far is the US or Israel willing to go to stop Iran from moving closer to a weapons capability? The answers are uncertain. But one thing is clear. The deal signed this week ensures that Iran's nuclear future and Russia's role in it will remain at the center of global geopolitics for years to come. Just this week, Iran and Russia signed a $25 billion agreement to build 4 new nuclear power plants in southern Iran. The announcement came only hours after the United Nations Security Council rejected a last-ditch Russian and Chinese bid to delay the return of sanctions on Tehran. In other words, Iran is racing forward with nuclear energy expansion. Russia is providing the technology, and the West is preparing to reimpose some of its toughest penalties yet. Is this the birth of a new nuclear axis, or the spark of an even larger crisis? In this video, we'll analyze what this fresh deal between Iran and Russia really means. We'll break it down into the history of their nuclear cooperation, the motivations on both sides, economic, political, and strategic, the consequences of the new $25 billion 4-reactor project, and how this aligns with the UN's looming snapback sanctions. By the end, you'll understand why this agreement is about much more than energy. It's about shifting power in the Middle East and the erosion of Western dominance in nuclear governance. Iran and Russia's nuclear partnership dates back decades. After the 1979 revolution, Iran's nuclear projects with Western companies collapsed. In the 1990s, Russia stepped in, completing the Bushehr nuclear power plant, Iran's first and so far only operational nuclear reactor. Despite US objections, Russia provided fuel, maintenance, and training, framing it as purely civilian cooperation. But Western governments always worried. Nuclear technology is dual use. What powers homes can also power weapons. Fast forward to today, and Moscow is no longer cautious. With its invasion of Ukraine and the collapse of ties with the West, Russia now sees nuclear cooperation with Iran as both strategic and profitable. Sanctions are at the heart of this partnership. Iran has lived under decades of restrictions, locked out of global finance and oil markets. Its economy struggles with inflation above 40% and regular blackouts due to underinvestment in power infrastructure. Russia, since 2022, has been hit with sanctions targeting everything from its oil exports to its central bank reserves. Moscow is cut off from Western energy markets, finance, and advanced technology. Together, they've found a solution: barter and bypass. The new $25 billion agreement signed this week involves 4 nuclear power plants in Hormozgan province, each with a capacity of over 1,200 megawatts. Once complete, these plants could add 5 gigawatts to Iran's grid, enough to power several million homes, freeing up more oil and gas for export. For Russia, it's a huge win. Its nuclear corporation, Rosatom, remains a global leader despite sanctions. Projects like this help it earn hard currency, keep its engineers employed, and show the world that Russia can still build major infrastructure abroad. Beyond economics, the timing of this deal is deeply political. For Moscow, it sends a message to the West. Russia is not isolated. It has powerful partners. It strengthens ties with an ally that provides drones and ammunition for its war in Ukraine. It positions Russia as a long-term nuclear partner for the Middle East, competing with Western and even Chinese firms. For Tehran, it secures Russian backing at the UN Security Council. It signals defiance. Even as the West prepares to reimpose snapback sanctions, Iran doubles down on cooperation. It builds leverage. With nuclear power plants under construction, Iran gains bargaining chips for any future negotiations with the US or Europe. Together, they are building what analysts call an axis of the sanctioned, states that survive global isolation by pooling resources, technologies, and political cover. Here's where things get more alarming. Iran insists these new reactors are civilian, yet Western intelligence agencies warn that Iran already enriches uranium up to 60% purity, just short of weapons grade. At 90%, uranium can be used in nuclear weapons. While Russia says it won't transfer sensitive weapons-related technology, its cooperation inevitably boosts Iran's overall nuclear expertise. And the more reactors Iran operates, the more nuclear material it possesses, raising long-term proliferation risks. This matters because Iran is already suspected of limiting transparency. This week, Tehran even warned it may restrict IAEA inspections if the UN snapback sanctions proceed. That would weaken the world's ability to monitor Iran's nuclear activities. How are others reacting? The United States has vowed to prevent Iran from obtaining nuclear weapons. Washington sees the Russia deal as a direct challenge to non-proliferation norms. The European Union views the project as a double blow: Russia circumventing sanctions and Iran gaining nuclear capacity just as talks over the JCPOA collapse. China quietly supports both countries. It has its own 25-year strategic deal with Iran and wants to see Russia and Iran integrated into its Belt and Road network. Israel and Saudi Arabia are alarmed. Israel has long carried out covert operations, cyber attacks, and even assassinations against Iran's nuclear program. Saudi Arabia, meanwhile, has warned it will pursue its own nuclear technology if Iran goes too far. The bottom line, this is not just about reactors in southern Iran. It's about accelerating a regional nuclear race and testing the resilience of the entire global non-proliferation regime. The crisis point came this very week. On September 24th, Iran and Russia signed an MOU on small nuclear reactors. On September 26th, they announced the $25 billion agreement for 4 full-sized reactors in Hormozgan. That same day, the UN Security Council rejected a Russian-Chinese motion to delay the return of sanctions. The snapback mechanism is moving forward, meaning Iran faces renewed global penalties within weeks. Hours later, Iran declared that its cooperation with IAEA inspections depends on whether these sanctions are actually imposed. In effect, we are witnessing 2 processes colliding: Iran expanding nuclear energy with Russian help, the West reimposing sanctions to contain Iran's nuclear program. This collision is what makes late September 2025 a potential turning point. The Iran-Russia nuclear deal is more than a commercial contract. It is a statement of defiance, an alliance of sanctioned states openly challenging the Western-led global order. For Iran, it promises electricity security and prestige. For Russia, it offers revenue and influence. But for the world, it raises difficult questions. Can non-proliferation regimes survive if major powers ignore them? Will regional rivals like Saudi Arabia and Turkey now accelerate their own nuclear programs? And how far is the US or Israel willing to go to stop Iran from moving closer to a weapons capability? The answers are uncertain, but one thing is clear. The deal signed this week ensures that Iran's nuclear future and Russia's role in it will remain at the center of global geopolitics for years to come.